Hey, what's going on everybody? Brandon Charleston here, recording another video for you. In this video, pretty exciting news. Gemini by Google was just released to the masses. They just released their pay-per model or pay-as-you-go model. And so basically you can let it rip as far as development and use within Clay. So I'm going to show you in this video how to set that up and also to compare it to other models as well. If you've seen other videos in my channel, basically I've already posted a number of different ones with different models and how I dive into the different use cases for that. If you haven't seen that, definitely encourage you to check it out. But just at a very high level, I talk about like Cohere, be able to use Claude, and then also Mistral and a number of other large language models. Because every one of them, while they're similar, they have different use cases, different pricing structures, and things like that. So this one, let's talk about Google Gemini, getting that set up, and then we'll compare that to other models as well. So let's dive in. So firstly, basically they've just recently released their price to help you go, right? So for the longest time, if you didn't already have an API key, Google released their Gemini version, and so they had a number of different models, at least as of this recording. They had their Gemini 1.0 Pro, which is more legacy, it's their most cost-effective one, and so obviously there's free of charge. But you can see here the rate limits as far as use within Clay is extremely low. 15, I mean, that's requests per minute. That's really low. Like I would only use that for trial purposes, which is why it's free and why you would use it for that case, right? But you can see here, you can use also, it's extremely cheap. I mean, it's just input and output is both. This is input, so it's 50 cents per 1 million, and then $1.50 for output for million tokens. So this is a very legacy, an older model. But if you're trying to get, again, very, very simple tasks done, let's say you are doing a summarizing data in any sort of context that you give it. Is just not a whole lot of brain power if you think about it that way, then I'd probably use this model. And then of course there's the 1.5 Pro. So Gemini, as they classify their models, is usually in every scenario you're going to have 3 different models. You're going to have a small, a medium, and a large, right? So not to get off course here, but what you want to do when you're using LLMs is to really assess the complexity and the creativity at which the task that you're having it do. And so if it is going to be a very easy task and it's very low admin wise, and essentially think about it for your brain. Like if you have to use a lot of brain power to do something, then you're going to want to use a larger model. If it's just like something you can ask, your 5-year-old or something to do, then just use a small model, right? So that's the way I would think about it when it comes to that. And the reason you want to do that, I see a lot of people, always try to use small models for big tasks, and then the output is usually inconsistent or it's not working really well. And then usually you have to really, really refine your prompt in order to even try to get good, consistent results. Stop doing that. Just pay the price. That way you get the output that you desire, and you're going to be better off that way. And you actually probably save money on that regard because it's just less token processing or consumption, right? So anyway, I digress, but keeping it focused here. So you want to go to Gemini's API. So it's ai.google.dev, right? Get yourself an account. I don't need to walk you through that. You can pretty much pick up where that is. And you can see here that they just basically set up the billing or the way for you to do that. And so if you go into your account, let me just make sure nothing is posted here to get blurred out. All right, cool. The cool thing is, that's why I'm bringing this up is because the way I see it, I'm seeing it probably the way you are, is there's a $300 free trial credit. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty dope, right? Free is good. I like the price of free, right? And so especially if it's $300. So that's actually quite a bit of tokens. I mean, I don't know. You could probably burn through one table doing that stuff, in my opinion, depending on what your use case is. But that could definitely be used. So what you want to do is set up your billing, right? Because you're going to be under the free which I believe is 30 requests per minute. No, it's 15. Jeez. 2. Oh my goodness. Okay. So clearly, I mean, I thought it was 30. Maybe that was, what was the 30? Oh, that's Grok. Okay. Not to get off course here. Okay. Grok. G-R-O-Q, by the way. The hardware company, not Elon's Twitter one. That one was 30 rates per minute. So that one is on Llama. I didn't even talk about Llama yet. Oh my gosh. I have some work to do. Anyway, so Gemini, you could clearly see the difference here, right? So Gemini Pro, this is their medium model because Ultra is going to be released soon. Who knows when? It could be tomorrow for all I know, especially at this rate. So just good to know. The Flash is their fast model, but you could see here, you could do 1,000 requests per minute. I mean, that's pretty damn good, you know, and then you could do 2 million tokens per minute. So that obviously bodes well with, and probably why they named it Flash. So you can see here, the price per input is 35 cents. This is for prompts for up to 128,000 tokens. So not to go off course here, but think of a token as basically grouped words or grouped letters in a way that it can be computable, right? So that's what a token is. So it's really hard to say exactly how many tokens a particular prompt is, but usually you just want to put in as much clearly by the pricing here compared to output. You can see the input is always consistently cheaper than the output. And this is why in prompt engineering, you want to craft your prompts in a way where you control the output as much as possible. You don't just want to say, give me a summary of this or give me this. Like put what you're actually asking for and then tell it exactly what to output. And so especially in a use case like Clay, where you're trying to formulate certain things, you want to use as much control as possible. So, but you can clearly see when you set up your billing that this is the use here. And then we have Gemini 1.5 Pro. You can see, so it's $350 for 1 million tokens and $7. So this is their medium, and that's a little bit more expensive. But then you can clearly see that it's $10.50 for the output, and then so this can get really costly, right? So Gemini 1.5 Pro. So let's compare it to, let's see here, pricing wise. Okay, so we have GPT-4o, right? So we have very consistent. It's $5 for every 1 million tokens of input and 15 for out, right? So if we're comparing that to, okay, so you can clearly see that GPT-4o, I'm going off here, 5 and 15. So 5. So input wise, this is a little bit cheaper. Well, I guess it really just depends. So if you keep your prompts pretty short, then you're going to pay the lesser, right? So if you have my guess here for 1 million tokens, this means you are in a Clay scenario. This is probably not going to happen to you because there's only certain cell size that you can feed into a prompt. Although I'm sure you can get close. But for 1 million tokens to go into an input, this usually means that you are throwing like a manual or a PDF or some ginormous file here to process 1 million tokens in one swoop. So I'd say good job, Google. You know, fair, that's warranted. It's double the price. So for the most cases, you're probably going to be in this 350 range, and then clearly you're going to be at 1050. So you can see right here, Gemini 1.5 Pro is going to be cheaper than your GPT-4o. So definitely worth noting, right? And this is Google's LLM. So this is their medium model. Obviously GPT-4o is a little bit larger, so it's a little bit more, but this gives us good options here. And so let's look at Mistral. So Mistral, if you're not already familiar with Mistral, it's definitely worth noting because Microsoft has a little bit of their pie, and I believe they're based out of France. Mistral, as of this recording, is not yet directly integrated with a platform like Clay, but I go in my other videos on how you could do that, and then you can also look in their API docs to be able to implement that. So reach out if you need some assistance with getting that going, but I definitely recommend you check out my other videos. But to summarize here, you can see they have, you have Mistral small, medium, large. So this is their open source models. Why didn't I not pull that up? Okay, so we have Mistral small, large, and well, there's medium as well. So there, they have, where was it? I thought I had it here. Okay, here we go. This, I did have it. Okay, so you can see Mistral. So CodeStraw, don't get confused here. This is their brand new model where it's specific to coding. So this might apply to some of you guys if you're trying to use that. Let's stick to Mistral small. So you can see this is their small model. So you have $1 for 1 million tokens and $3, right? So if we're comparing small to small, you have 35 cents for 1 million tokens. That's cheap. And then you have $1.05 for 1 million tokens. So for 1.5 flash, that's pretty damn good. So 1.5 flash could be done pretty darn quick. And then also, I don't know, I'm gonna have to test this out. So I'll get back to you on that. But to compete with that, let's go to Claude. So let me just shrink my face here. So this is similar to Haiku, all right? Light and fast, you can, again, hardworking and then powerful. So this is exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to small, medium, large models. And using a genius to do a very hard task or using a 5-year-old to do a task. That's light and fast, if you will, right? So you can see here, input, 25 cents. Okay, so Haiku is going to be a little bit cheaper, and then $1.25, and then we have $1.05. So it's very comparable. I mean, we're stretching the penny here at this point, right? So it's 35 cents and $1.05, where you have 25 cents and $1.25. Give a little, that's like one of those keep the change kind of thing, right? So you can compare Gemini 1.5 Flash to your Haiku. I'd say those are very comparable, right? So, and then we have Cohere. Cohere, if you don't already know about Cohere, I definitely encourage you to. It's definitely a great LLM. It's an enterprise level one, but it's definitely got its power, its pros and cons, but it has its pros as well. So we have 3 different models. You have Command R Plus, which is their newest and best ones. That's why it's $3 and $15. So this is going to compare, let's see here. So we have, all right, we have $3 and $10. So you clearly Command R Plus is their strongest, most powerful one. Command R, this is kind of like your GPT 3.5, your medium model. Let's say it's fast, but again, this uses what you call RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. So it's an external APIs, right? Or external tools, I should say. So this is kind of where I talk about Cohere, where it has connectors. And so without the use of an actual agent, this has web connectors where it can access the website. But you got to make sure you're prompting it correctly, which I record in other videos. And so yeah, there's that. And then they also have Command R fine-tuned model, so it's a little different as well. So yeah, there's that. So definitely very comparable, but keeping it strict to a Gemini, definitely encourage you check that out. And so what you want to do, just to go into it, is you are going to want to go to your workspace settings. Don't mind, I just burned through all my credits. Don't worry about that. It's kind of beating the old timeline here. And so, all right. And then you want to go to Gemini, right? So all you gotta do is put in your API key, and it's directly integrated, so that way you're not burning credits for that. And then let it rip, right? So you can see here, I mean, that's pretty damn good. So they just released it today. I just got the email. So Gemini is another powerhouse. So just as best use, I should say, best practice, this is what I would recommend. Generally, people will there's different use cases for different LLMs. Obviously, some are better than others when it comes to output, but a lot of them are pretty similar for especially the things that we do within Clay, unless it's super complex. But from what I found, Claude has been usually good from a creative standpoint. as far as, you know, creating different areas of the ad copy or the copy of an email. And so, but Gemini again is backed by Google, so you never know how it was trained, and it's probably going to be pretty powerful and consistent. Definitely a competitor. I mean, if you compete with Google, I mean, you're bringing the big guns, right? And so I forget where I was going with that, but to keep it real, what I was saying is, let's say as a best practice that you are building a table, and then you have a specific column that is using, for example, GPT 4.0, right? You might be using Claude with GPT 4.0, although that could get really costly. You could be using that for a specific task to scrape websites or do some sort of research for you. But then you could, instead of a formula, if it needed to be a little bit more, there needs to be a little bit more logic to it, you could use Gemini, another LLM, to do another task, and then you could use another model such as Claude to kind of wrap all those together. And that is the best powerful way, you know, because if you're not, you know, you're only going to have so many tiers or so many limitations. And this is also why, you know, you don't always want to use, for example, GPT 4.0 in all your columns and all your things. A lot of people pretty much get like a favorite model and they just stick to the one size because they're not really sure, you know, if it's going to be like big or small or medium, like which model do I use? Like a lot of them are very similar, but again, it's all about token consumption because those can get pretty costly, especially if you have a table of like 50,000 leads or something like that. You know what I mean? And even if it's a smaller table, but you just want to set it up in a way that's most efficient for you or your clients, where when you're adding more leads to it, the cost is going to start to rack up, right? So that's why it's super important to really understand not only the pricing of the model, but to be able to select which model you want, whether it's small, medium, or large, and then whatever vendor or maker, if you will, like Claude, Gemini, etc., to be able to use that. So it's not always the cheapest that's the best, but it's always, you don't always need to default to the most expensive as well, because obviously that's going to really rack up as far as that's concerned. But when you're talking about rates per minute, you know, being able to do something like Gemini Flash for pennies on a dollar, and you have 1,000 rates per minute, you know, timing is everything, right? So I bet, I haven't tested this yet, this is just barely released, but if I let it rip Gemini 1.5 Flash to do a very small task, you know, the table is just going to get done faster. So that's going to be obviously hopefully a good use case there. But anyway, this video is getting way too long, but I hope, again, this was helpful. This is 2 videos in one day, so I really appreciate you smashing that like button and subscribing, and I'll keep pushing this content out, and hopefully that it's helped you build out your best tables and leveraging, you know, all things AI and automation. And again, appreciate you watching. Have a good one.